Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do my end of the year best of, worst of, couple surprises, and a couple of my favorite rereads. So I had a really good reading year this year. I will do some kind of a stats video probably in another week or so. I'm just not ready to go through all those numbers. I read over 280 books, so I read quite a bit, but I also reread quite a bit. So again, not a lot of those numbers are equal a new book to me, but I have narrowed down my top 10. Some of them are series books, like there's a couple books that are included, but most of them are that title, but we'll see what happens. I do have, as I said, I want to kind of talk about a couple of my worst books of the year and two surprises, I think it was two, that I just want to mention, and then a couple of my favorite rereads that I did this year, just because I do reread a lot. So we're going to start with the rereads, just because that's kind of just a fun way to start. So I did reread the Lord of the Rings this year on audio by Andy Serkis. So again, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. I'd read them quite a while ago, them originally, and I got the audiobooks this year, and they were fantastic, and I blew through these. I didn't think I was gonna listen to them that quickly back to back kind of thing, but I did almost, like I had a couple things in between, but mostly I just enjoyed this. I did this summer, and it was like one of the best rereading experiences by audio that I did this year. These were just so fantastic in their own right, and then Andy Serkis did a really great job on the audiobook. So if you are looking at audiobooks, I do have like other versions as well. But I really enjoyed his, because Andy Serkis is the one who played Gollum in all the movies. So that was like one of my favorite reread things. And then I also reread the Plated Prisoner series, so I would be prepared for book 5. So I read the first 4 novels, Gild, Glint, Gleam, and Glow, and just rereading them was just fantastic. I did read these at the end of November and early December. I should have been reading other stuff to get done with other projects I had done, but I just wanted to get back to this world. It's only been a year since I read these, but it was just such a fantastic ride to go back and reread the whole series to get ready for Gold. I don't think I'm going to do the whole series when the last book, Goldfinch, comes out, but I'm really glad that I did it this time, just to because it had been a year, and I just enjoyed being back in this world, and it was just so fantastic. And again, this is the Plated Prisoner series, which is a fantasy romance following Arin, who is gold touched by King Minos, and it's kind of her discovering herself and the way political things start happening when King Minos tries to reach out for more power. And it's such a fantastic series. I think so. I know the first book so not everybody loves, but I enjoyed it again on the second time around. And I'm just so glad I reread those this year, because I didn't have to, because it has been only a year, but it was so fantastic to read those, even though they're all, the other 3 are right there. They're all chunky except for the first one. So, but those are my 2 favorite rereading experiences this year. So I'm going to do my 2 surprises for different reasons. So the first one I'm going to say is because it was one of those books that I started and then I DNF'd, like a soft DNF, and then I finally came back and then finished it and really enjoyed it. Now, this is not like a 5-star read for me. This was just fun and light, and everybody's been talking about The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, so I don't think it's a surprise that I picked up a copy because of the hype, even though I'm not a contemporary romance reader all the time. I'm getting back kind of into certain genres of it, but this one it worked for me after I got past a certain point. So I read it almost halfway, and then I put it down like from February, and then I picked it up this fall, and because I was trying to finish books that I had started, and I restarted it, and that really helped me get back into it. I started from the very beginning and read it all again, and it was much better the second time around. It just might not have hit the right time. Again, I just love Olive and Adam and their fake dating situation and the things that happen. Again, there's parts in here that was not my favorite, but I just found such joy in reading, rereading even the end. Like this was a book that for the first time in ages, other than a Nalingi Singh book, because she doesn't count because I reread her all the time, but like I actually finished it, and then I immediately went back and reread like the last quarter of it again. Like it was like one of those things where I don't do that very often. And so I'm only bringing this up as kind of a surprise because again, I had such a rocky start to it. And then the second time was just, it went a lot better and I really enjoyed it. And I said, I reread it again and I want to reread the end again. So anyway, so that's one of my surprises. My other surprise was that I enjoyed House of Earth and Blood, the first book in the Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Now this has opened up a big can of worms for me because I did just finish the second book. But the first book, when I read it earlier this year, I was just blown away that this time it worked for me because I tried it when it first came out. A coworker had convinced me that I need to try this book. And I'm an urban fantasy reader, so I thought, oh, that even though this is like in a fantasy world, it was, you know, urban fantasy like. And I didn't like the first 50 pages. Well, if I just read a little bit farther, it would have got a lot better that time. But I got the book from the library and it was a hardback. And, you know, that was my excuse to not read it. So anyway, I picked up a copy this year because I had read another one of his recommendations that actually is on my top 10 list. So I thought I'd better go back and read the other book he had recommended me that I didn't really read. And I'm so glad I did because this was fantastic. There is about 120 pages of this that I detest, which is kind of drops its rating down. But other than that, it was such a fun read. And I did reread it this year in order to read the second book because I waited too long. There was just so many details in here I knew I needed for the second book. And then now I've read the second book and now I'm waiting for the third book. So we'll see what happens, how well I do on that. But yeah, you can see my most hated areas right there. Maybe I'm exaggerating on how long it is, but I hate this section. You know, but anyway, okay, it's not quite that long, but anyway, I'm exaggerating. There's at least 50 to 100 pages that I was like not happy about it, which is, anyway, but overall, this was a great ride. Again, this is urban fantasy in a fantasy world following Bryce, and she's brought in to help find out who killed someone after they thought that they'd already captured the killer, but something's going on and something's happening again. And it just explodes, the most explosive ending I've ever read, really. I mean, there's a couple I would probably put up in line with this, but this was just maybe of this year, this is the most explosive end that I read. And again, I reread this one this year too. So anyway, I'm still surprised that I did this. So that was why it's a surprise, because I was not expecting to get into that. Okay, so let's talk about, I have 3 honorable mentions because they didn't make the top 10 list. And 2 of them are my nonfiction. They just didn't make top 10. But The Invention of Nature, The Adventures of Alexander van Humboldt, The Lost Hero of Science by Andrew Wolfe was such a good nonfiction talking about history and about Van Humboldt, how the places he went and he thought up ideas, and it was fascinating. And it's really, I mean, there's still so much in here. I want to go back and pick out things and read more about him and other stuff. I found this book was a really good nonfiction following this scientists who, you know, went out into the world and looked at things in a time period where, you know, that's all they could do is they had to leave. It was the early 1800s, and he, you know, went all over the place. Like, he just traveled, and it was just fascinating, the places he went and things he did. And I like the way this book was done. It was a book that I picked up because I'd heard other people talking about it a couple of years ago, and I just picked it up this year. I put it on my list of nonfiction I wanted to get to, and I read it, and I really, really enjoyed this, but it didn't quite make top 10, but I did want to point that out. If you're looking for nonfiction on nature, definitely The Invention of Nature is a great book. The other nonfiction is A Writer's Diary by Virginia Woolf. These are her diaries, the abridged ones that are just talking about mostly her writing and her reading and little parts of her life. Intermixed in that, but mostly it has to do with her writing and her reading and her reviewing and her publishing And it was just so interesting. Virginia Woolf is definitely one of those authors that I may not love everything I've read from her because she has very unique styles and different ways of doing things, but I just enjoy reading things about her from her perspective on her take on certain things and on different books, like other authors, because she was friends with like people like Emerson. No, that's not it. What is it? I can't think of their names right now. Just whatever. My brain is just not functioning. But I did like that, you know, like there was D.H. Lawrence and Ian Forster. That's the one I was trying to get to. And a couple of the other ones that I was surprised that she was connected to them. And it was just either through publishing or through her group of writers. It was so fascinating to read this. And again, I did after this pick up more of her novels. I want to pick up more of them. I'm still missing a couple of her earlier ones. And then I do have I have a biography. I picked up a small biography, but it wasn't really what I wanted. So I picked up the bigger biography by Hermione Lee to hopefully read this year, because this just made me want to know more about her and see what other people thought about her and stuff. So I just wanted more. She's such a fascinating character. Again, not like my favorite person and not a perfect person, but just interesting. Just her thoughts and feelings about things was just so fascinating on reading and writing and publishing and stuff. It was in that time frame. It was just awesome. And then the last one that didn't quite make my top 10 was Gold by Raven Kennedy, which is the 5th book in the Plated Prisoner series. I really, really adored this book. It didn't make the top 10, but I really liked it because there was, sorry. There's a few things that I was definitely not expecting that happened in here. Cliffhanger ending, of course. But I think this was a solid book in this series. I think, again, it works as a series that it was definitely, after I just reread everything before this, it was a much better read than if I had not reread. I'm pretty sure I will reread this one before the last book, Goldfinch, comes out. So this one will probably definitely for sure get reread in 2024, because I really, really enjoyed it. It just didn't quite make the top 10, but I did want to put it here as my honorable mention because I was looking forward to this all year. And again, I reread the whole series to be ready for this one. So anyway, okay, so those are all those. So I'm now going to do my top 10 starting at the 10 point. And then when we get halfway through, I'll take a break and talk about my 3 worst books of the year. So number 10 is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, the first book in the Nightborn duet in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I loved this book, and it's a book that has been haunting me because I read it in the spring, and I have not picked up The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I just keep staring at it, and I just keep getting scared because of how this book ended, and when I know it is the start of that book, and it's just going to hurt me. This book was a great one for a trial. There are these games that they have to, Aura is a human who is living kind of in the vampire world. Her guardian is the king of the vampires, and she has to be in this tournament so that she could get a wish from the god, I think Nyaxia. I can't remember now for sure, but the point is that it was just so good. It was a slow burn romance in here that to me made a lot of sense. I liked a lot of the way this goes. Ending was explosive, and then the things that happened in the aftermath, I'm just like, no, like it was so cool. I did read The 6 Scorched Roses. That is the novella that comes in between. So I am ready for the next book. I'm hoping to pick it up in February, but I don't know. We'll see. I do need to finish this duology. This is going to be a 6-book series, but with duologies, 3 duologies. So I don't even know when the next book's coming out, like in the series, but I just need to finish. I need to read the next one of this, but this was so good, and that is why I am putting it here at my number 10 spot. Again, did I say that was fantasy romance? Yeah, sorry. So number 9, I'm going to put both of these books because they're in the same series, the When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. These are contemporary romances that I just adored. Yeah, I think these are the highest. Oh, no, there's another romance in there. But these are the only contemporaries I put up here. I just love these. These were the contemporaries that I like, that have most of the conflicts were not ridiculous. They were more, you know, there were reasons for them. The first book, we're following a character who is a huge singer who kind of breaks down, her car breaks down in this small town room, and she and the baker kind of become friends, and things kind of happen from that. And they have things in their past of why, you know, that they're not trying to get close to each other, but then they do. It's so cute. And then Practice Makes Perfect is a fake dating situation with a bodyguard and the sister of the main male character in this one. And I just adored this one as well. They were just so cute in a lot of ways. And they all have, you know, they're very personable. They're people that are the good people. And, you know, it's just, there's not a lot of the drama that some contemporary romances get. Again, I am trying to, you know, open up my eyes to a lot of this stuff, but some stuff these just hit right for me, and I really, really enjoyed them. So I'm hoping she brings more out in this series, because there's 2 other sisters. So I'm hoping we'll get those at some point. Okay, so that was number 9. Number 8 is the end of the Beyond series by Kit Rocha. I reread the whole series up to the point where I had stopped, and then read the last few books in this series. This is post-apocalyptic, I would say romantic fantasy, or how do I want to say that? My brain just stopped. It's romance, but it's very explicit. So I mean, it's but it's apocalyptic. So we're in a world where all the, you know, most of the power was taken out by, I think, some solar flares. And so there's this place called Eden where they had an internal source for power. And so they're lit up, and there's this very hot society that's very, you know, the pure, you know, everybody is, they're all the rich people. And then there are the sectors that are outside of the walls, which just kind of siphon off some of the power. And they're like kind of gangs of all these 8 sections. And we're following, are they section? Oh, my brain just shut down. I think they're section 4, but it's been a little bit. Anyway, again, it's been 6 months since I read this, but anyway, we're following the O'Kanes, and this is the climax to the whole series. Like, it's just, this is book 9, I believe, and there's a lot of novellas in the middle too. But I got last year before last, sorry, 2022. I bought all these copies physically, because I had them all on ebook, but I bought physical copies because I had some sale, and I was like, so 2023 I was going to finish this series, so I did. And Beyond Surrender is the end of the battle with the sectors against Eden, and I just this one made me cry because of a certain scene, and it was just, all my characters that were from all the other books are intermixed, all those couples and aftermath, you know, things that happened to some of them that I was not expecting. It was brutal in some ways, because again, it's the big action one, but I really, really enjoyed it. I just picked this book to kind of represent the whole series, because this is the end. There is a continuation series with Gideon's Riders, which there are 3 books out in that one, but they don't have any plans right now to continue that, even though there's like obviously open like story to go there. So hopefully they'll come back to it at some point. But again, Kit Rocha is one of those authors that I just started online when I first got my first, I got my first Kindle and got some of their books. And I've just kind of followed them. And again, the Beyond series is definitely my favorite thing from them. I've read the Mercenary Librarians, and they have a new one out, Consort of Fire, which I'm really looking forward to. But I do want to put them down as number 8 is Beyond Surrender for the Beyond series, because that was just a fantastic reading experience to reread and then read the new stuff. So number 7 is The Mill House Murders by Yukito Ayasuji. This was translated from the Japanese by Ho Ling Wong. So this one is I think it's a book from the 80s. But it follows, I can't remember, something like that. This one is the same writer as the Decagon House Murders, which I read also this year. I read these both with Bernard Bernard's Bookish Adventures, and I really enjoyed the second one. The first one I really liked. It was an And Then There Were None retelling. This one was a different kind of locked room mystery at the Mill House, where a year ago all this stuff went down. Somebody died, somebody disappeared, and I think a painting went missing, and it was like there's all this kind of stuff going on. And then a year later they all show up again on the same date, because they have it's a ritual that these people show up once a year. And one of the characters from the Decagon House Murders, who was kind of instrumental in figuring out the mystery there, he shows up here, and then he kind of gets involved because he knew one of the person who disappeared. So I think it was the disappeared one. Anyway, the point is that I really enjoyed this. I know some other people did not like it as much as the Decagon House Murders, but I really enjoyed this one because I guessed part of it, but not all of it. Like, it was one of those things where I was guessing all the way through thinking I got it, and then I didn't get it. And, you know, I got part of it, but not everything. And I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next one that's coming out, I think later this year, called Labyrinth House, I think, Murders. So again, there's a whole series of house murders by this author. I don't remember how many there are, but as soon as they come out in an English translation, I will be getting them, and hopefully Berner will read them with me. But this is my number 6, because it was, or number 7. This is number 7. Sorry, my brain is off. Number 7 on my list, just because of the experience. I was just joyful to pick this up and just keep reading, because I wanted to know what happened and what was going on, and I wanted to figure out the mystery. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. And then number 6 is Lake Silence by Anne Bishop. This is kind of a stand-in for the 3 books that I read this year for the World of the Others series, which is 3 books that take place after the Others series, which is one of my favorite series of all time, starting with Written in Red. This is, I think this is the first one. Yeah, so this is the first one of the World of the Others, and I think I picked this one just because it was the one I think of the 3, it was the one I enjoyed the most, even though I gave them all 5 stars. I just really enjoyed this series. These are, again, we're talking about a different world. It's like our world, but different, and it's a place where there's a lot of areas where the others, or these other creatures that are kind of in control of the land, and humans only have rights to certain parts of that land, and if they break certain rules against the others, then there is havoc to pay. And we are by a lake, and this young woman is going through a divorce, and she gets this kind of like a campground kind of thing with some cabins and stuff, and she's given that as her divorce settlement. And she finds out that she is like on the edge of the wilderness with a lot of the others around, and it's her interaction with them and why her campground is so important and stuff. And I love the small town thing where she meets everybody, but then there's also these sinister things of people dying, and we don't know who's doing it and what's going on. So all 3 books, the second book does take place in an area that we learned about in the other series, another little town that's farther out into the wilderness and their problems, and that was explosive. And then the third book in this one comes back to this area and Crowbones, and that was an interesting one too, and it went in directions I didn't expect. This is series, again, the other series is one of my favorite urban fantasy series because it's urban, but it has like this fantasy element because the world is different. It's, you know, it's just different. I don't know. I love the characters in here. I love the way that others, how she creates them. They're just perfect. They're great characters. Anyway, but I'm putting this in for all 3 of them because they all were fantastic reads this year, and I just want to make sure I got that on at my number 6 position. So let's just take a break from all the fun stuff and let's talk about some books that I hated. Now, the first one I'm going to mention, well, let's see here. Well, we'll go in order of how, okay. I'm going to do this one first because this is not quite so much a hated, but it is one of my worst books of the year. And that is The Tropic of Serpents by a memoir of Lady Kent by Marie Brennan. I really, really enjoyed the first book. There were issues with it, but I reread it and listened to it, and I really enjoyed that one. And I've always wanted to continue on, so I finally let myself continue on, and I was so disappointed in this book. Everything that I didn't like in the first book carried into this book of the things I didn't like about the writing style and the way that she told the story. So a lot of this is just telling me. There's not a lot of showing how things work. It is a memoir, so she is telling us about what happened, but there's just so much telling. I didn't feel close to anything. Like, it was very much a distance thing. And then there's certain times where I wanted more details and we just didn't get that. We just got like a brief little over kind of thing. And it annoyed me. And this is one of those books that I put down after I read, I think I read over 100 pages. I think it was over 125 pages, and I set it down for months. And then I finally, just this last month, came back to it to finish it because I was trying to clear off as many of my currently reading books. And I almost DNF'd this 3 times. And I was just, but I finally made it through one day. I just go, okay, this is it. We're going to focus on this book and get this done. And, I mean, it wraps up in the things that happened were interesting by the end, and the things that we learned. And, I can see where you would want to go on to read more, but I think I'm just done with the series. This is not written in a way that is fun for me. I hate when we have books where the characters tell us, well, if we'd known this, we wouldn't have done this. Or if I know that it would be looked at this way, I wouldn't have said it this way. Okay, I get that you can do that once in a great while in a story, but I get tired of it when it happens every chapter. Near the end of the chapter, they say, well, if I'd known that it would be interpreted that way, I wouldn't have said it that way, or I would have done this instead of this. I'm like, well, yeah, we'd all do that, but I want to be more, because this is an older protagonist looking back at her younger years writing this. I get why that is supposed to work in a story, but to me, it never does. It always annoys me when I'm told, if we'd known. I hate that. I really do, because I want to read in the, even if it's a past tense books, I want to read it as it's in the present. Like, don't give me hints. I don't need any more hints than what's in the text. I don't need to know that was a problem. Like, I'll get it when we see later. I want to be able to recognize that was a problem without them telling me it's a problem. Does that make sense? Anyway, biggest pet peeve of all my reading, and this just did it all the time. Like, I could not handle it by the end. And I said, I am DNFing the series. I still really like the first book for a lot of things that happen in it, but this one just did not work for me. The other one is another series book, but this is the last book in what was that series called? The Boss Lass, or the New Chromosome series. So that follows Perdido Street Station, The Scar, and then the last one is Iron Council. And I found this such a disappointment after reading. I reread Perdido Street Station, and then I read The Scar earlier this year, and then I went on to read this one, and this one was just a drag. It was, I didn't like the characters. I didn't care what was going on. It was just meandering. There were so many things going on. Even by the end, it kind of ended in a way that was like, well, that was kind of a letdown. Like, there's not much there. Like, it was not what I expected. I didn't care. It was kind of a letdown out of the series where I've really enjoyed the first 2 books. And the third one was just not it. Like, it just didn't do anything for me. And I don't know how else to explain it. I can't remember now if there was any super glaring thing. But again, these are my 2-star reads, is pretty much what I'm telling you. I didn't have any 1-star reads this year because I usually DNF everything before it gets to that point. But these, the ones, my worst books are my 2-star reads, the ones that I really, by the time I got done with the book, I was so disgusted. I was just done. And this was it. I feel that this book, there were such lost opportunities with certain things that so fantastic, interesting ideas, and he just ruined them in the end. I just felt this was a really sad ending to the whole series. I really liked the first 2 books. And again, the only reason I still have this book is because it's pretty and it goes with the collection I have of his books, but that was not fun. I did not enjoy it. And then worst book of the year was A Haunting on the Hill by Elizabeth Hand, because this is not a retelling of A Haunting, how do you say that? A Haunting, oh gosh, my brain just shut down. Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is supposed to be a authorized sequel, or continuation, or an added or companion story to that, and this is nothing like The Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting of Hill House, I love that book. I know not everybody likes it, but I read it many years ago, and I watched the really old black and white film. I think it was black and white. Yeah, it was an old one. And I really enjoyed it back then. It scared the crap out of me because it was more psychological haunted house one. And I really love haunted house stories. And I've read quite a few of them over the years. This one was just, my first problem is that there's nothing connecting this to The Haunting of Hill House. Very low, very little of it does. I mean, there's parts of it do connect back. There's certain things that do. Okay, there's a couple things that do, because I did reread Haunting of Hill House just to go to see what the differences were, and there was a couple like threads, but they are so little and so insignificant, and this story was so boring, and the haunting was nothing what I wanted. It didn't even, not even worried me at all. It was kind of weird, and the characters were just kind of I didn't like them very much, and their relationships back and forth. It didn't do anything for me. I can't even be specific anymore, because I blocked this book out of my mind because I disliked it so much. Because it was not a retelling, or, not a retelling, not a continuation or a companion novel. This was not Hill House. I don't care that it was called that. It was not the same. Especially after I reread the other one. I'm like, they're not. There's a couple details, but most everything is that it didn't feel or act or do anything like The Haunting of Hill House, that at least to my personal opinion. And I found it such a disappointment. I had to force myself to finish this. I just wanted to see how it ended, because I was hoping that would kind of bring more in, but no, it was just kind of lackluster and annoying. So anyway, but I was really disappointed. That was actually one of my, as I said, it was one of my worst books of the year, but also my most disappointing, because I was really looking forward to that. So, okay, let's see here. So now we're going to go to, where is it? So now I'll go back to my best books of the year. Sorry. So number 5, I don't think it's any surprise that this made it, but I don't have a physical copy yet, because the physical paperbacks don't come out until this month. But that is Resonance Surge by Nalini Singh. This is book 22? Yeah. This is 22 in the Side Changeling series, or number 7 in the Side Trinity, or Side Changing Trinity series. So, as I said, this is not one you want to start with. This is definitely a book that you have to build up to. Being 22 in the whole series, you don't want to start here. I really, again, this is high on this list because it's Nalini Singh, and I can't help it. She just brings me such joy with these characters and her story. This one's following Yagov and, I can't remember her name right now, but they were just, I love this couple. It was more of a sweet romance for them. And then we also got a couple that we've been watching for the last 5 or 6 books getting together and their relationship. And that was just it was a lovely addition, and I loved that about that. But again, this is a world where there are people with psychic abilities, shifters, and humans who are all vying for power. We are fairly far into the series. A lot of things have happened by this point, and we are finding out things that had happened for decades, abuses and things that had happened to people who were under the psychics, their control, and finding out these horrible things that you kind of are hinted at from the very first book, but you know, as the books go on, we get different sections and learn different things about the world. And this one took care of this one section we didn't know a whole lot about. And I just loved the way we learned things about these people. And again, we met more people in the series that I'm hoping for their books future. And just so glad that you know, another book had come out. So it was number 5. And so that is not really surprising for that. So here's one book that counts for a whole series, and that is The House Witch by Delum Hawk. So this is my number 4 on my favorites list. I read the first 3 House Witch books, and then the next book, The Princess of Potential, within 2023. And I just adore this series. This is a cozy fantasy series where we're following Finn, and he comes to work at the castle, and he is a house witch. So he doesn't tell anybody at first, but he is like a cook. He comes in as the cook, and he is a witch that the more he is in an area or in he makes his home somewhere, his magic grows for that, and he becomes very protective of the people and the castle and the king and his family that live there. And it's him getting kind of involved in things that he didn't really go there to do that. He was there to be the cook, the royal cook. And it just grows from there. And there's a lot of stuff that that has to do with another country and a war that comes later and all these things that happen. And then again, the series is continuing with the children who are from this book. So Princess of Potential was 20 years after the first 3 books. And so I'm now into the middle of the Burning Witch trilogy, which I just finished the first book in that series that's out. So I'm caught up on this series. I just adore this series. This was like one of the best cozy reads that I had this year. I would definitely recommend this. If you just want fun, they are good sized chunkies. They're all about 400 or, well, this is like 460. So they're all good size. They're at least about 400 pages, maybe a little bit more on some of them. But it's a slow start, but you get to know everybody at the castle, and then the books just grow, like things that happen and, you know, relationships between people. And I just adored this series. And you know, as I said, I will reread these. I'm not doing that yet because the other series is still coming out, but I probably will in the future because I just adored the series, and I'm really enjoying continuing that, and I'm looking forward to more of the books as they come out because now I'm caught up. So I have to wait. So book number 3 is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I only read 2 of the Secret Projects, and I think, yeah, I didn't read much else Brandon Sanderson this year, although this next year I'm hoping to read a lot more. But Tress was the first one of the Secret Project, so it came out in January, but it took me until like March to get to it. And I'm so glad I read this, and I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this was really good for standalone purposes, even though it is part of the Cosmere. I still think you could read it because I hadn't read enough to know some of the Easter eggs. So I'm looking forward to my reread of this once I get farther into the Cosmere. But this is following Tress, who lives on this island and isn't supposed to leave. But she is, she likes the son of the Duke, I believe. And he is then sent off to try to get married to somebody else off the island, somebody more, you know, royal. And something happens and he doesn't come back. And so she decides to go and rescue him. And I just adored this. It was just such a fun ride. And it was so, it's supposed to be like a Princess Bride kind of retelling. And I did see that kind of stuff in it. But I love the differences in the, you know, the world that he has. Because the water isn't water. It's like spores. And it's just, and something happens when things die down and then they can't, like it could really go badly with different kinds of spores in different parts of the world. So interesting. As I said, I really enjoyed this. I think I'll like it better after I reread it and catch more of the Cosmere things. So I didn't really catch that many because I've only read Mistborn and part of Mistborn Era 2. So, and Warbreaker. So I'm kind of like, I'm still kind of at the beginning of my stuff, but I just adored this. And this is, again, such a pretty copy. So I'm so glad that I did. I forgot I had that I did have, I did do the Kickstarter. I think that was the, you know, I said I've done a few Kickstarters for other things, but I'm so glad I did do this one, because the books are all gorgeous. I still have 2 to read, but we'll get to those soonish, even though, because I've heard really good things about them too. But I just adored Trust, and I'm looking forward to when I get to a point where I can reread those. And that was number 3. So number 2 is the first book I read in 2023. And it stayed at number 1 up until the summer when I read something else. But my the one that was at number 1 is now number 2 is Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So this is book 3 in the Locked Tomb series. Oh, I just adore this series. Again, I read Gideon the Ninth was a book that I had tried because my coworker had told me to read it, and then he and I tried it and I didn't give it enough time, but I got it from the library, and again I'm really bad about that, about getting stuff out and trying it and like, oh, I can't deal with this right now, so I didn't read that. But I picked up Gideon the Ninth on a whim when I went to Barnes & Noble one day, thinking about that. Oh, I should really try that again. And just adored Gideon the Ninth, and then Harrow the Ninth that I read in 2022. So the first book, I was ready for Nona. And this, again, they're all such different books. You definitely have to start with Gideon, where we're following Gideon, who is into swords. And she wants to get off the planet. She does not like the ninth house, and she wants to get going, but Harrow kind of talks her into staying and going with her on a mission to become, I can't remember what they call those things, kind of an advisor to the emperor of the whole thing, and all the necromancers kind of thing. And there's like a competition to figure out these things at the place, and then it just kind of goes sideways. And it was such a good book. And again, Harrow was completely different. Perspective changes, and then everything changes. Nona, everything changes. We're somewhere else, something else. We don't know what's going on when you're dropped in. She is so good at changing the perspective. And then we know all what happened in the back, but we're like, how does that connect to where we are now? And it takes like almost the whole book to like start getting it all together. Again, this ended in a way that I'm like, where's book 4? And I'm really hoping Electo will come out this year, 2024, but I just don't know, because there's no like we haven't seen anything on it. And I want it so bad, because I'll reread the whole series. Nona was just fantastic because it was so different from the other two. I would still say Gideon is probably my favorite, just because of the way I felt when I read that one. But the other two are so good in different ways. And I've just enjoyed all these. They're all 5-star reads. I just love them. And Nona was no different. It was different completely in what happened. And then what happened to the other characters from other parts of the other books. And I'm like, there's just so many things in here. And I'm looking forward to my reread because it was so good. And again, it wasn't my number 1 for most of the year, up until, I think, August. And that is when my number 1 book was read. And that is Wolfsong by T.J. Klune. This is the Green Creek series. So I only have the first 2 because that's what's out in hardback right now. So I read Wolfsong, and then I read Ravensong, and then I also read Heart Song and Brother's Song. So all 4 of them are technically my favorite books of the year, because this is my favorite series of the year. This was fantastic. So this is urban fantasy following this family, and then Ox, who lives next door to them, and it's just werewolves, and it has a lot of gay relationships, but they're just so, I just love the found family, and the family growth, and people, the community grind, and then just all the heartache and angst and all that stuff. This was like just so much in here, and just the way it went. I just loved all these books. I still think Wolfsong is probably my favorite of the books, even though I read them all so quickly. But I loved all of them. As I said, I think the 3rd hardback is coming out in end of January. I have it pre-ordered, and then I'm going to pre-order the 4th book that comes out, I think, in July, sometime in the summer. Anyway, then I'll have all of them, and then I'll probably buy the paperbacks because these might not be my reading copies, because I did listen to all of them on audio by Kurt Graves, and he was fantastic. I loved that whole listening to them and everything. They were just great. I love Ox, and I love all the family members. This one, all of them hurt you at some point. I think I cried at all the books, at some point or another, or multiple times. They were so emotional, but they were so much fun, and they were hilarious at certain points and just goofy. It was just so real for an urban fantasy. I guess that's what I was saying. The characters just felt like, they were just those guys that lived just down the street, and they were just trying to get by. Anyway, I just love these. These are definitely my favorite books of the year. I mean, if I have to pick one, Wolfsong is the one, but it's pretty much the whole Green Creek series. The best thing I read this year was this series, and I just ate them up, and I cannot wait to reread them, which will probably happen at some point, either this year or next year. I'm sure I'll come back to these and read them again, because I'm a big rereader, and these are definitely ones I would reread. So anyway, those are all my different things for best of, worst of, surprises, rereads. I know this is a really long video, so I hope you guys hung out to the end. But if not, I guess I understand. Anyway, but those who did, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you guys had a great reading year. Are any of these your favorite books? Or tell me what your favorite book or favorite series that you read. Or tell me something like, what was your favorite reread? That's kind of interesting. Just tell me something, and let me know just if you're going to read any of these books, because I've talked about them. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.